A crisp morning light filtered through the boutique windows, illuminating sleek counters and polished chandeliers, the kind only found in high-end neighborhoods far removed from daily struggle. Soft classical music echoed through the space, a sign of forced sophistication, of quiet elitism. Elijah stood there, 10 years old, tiny compared to the glass cases and velvet-lined stands, gripping a $20 bill as if it were gold. His eyes scanned the display of delicate silver jewelry resting on a locket etched with roses. He didn't move quickly. He had learned not to. He studied its soft shimmer, his breath short, his hands slightly sweaty. She loved roses. His mother always wore a pin with one whenever she could. This locket was more than a gift. It was a memory he could wrap in a box and finally give back to her. As his fingers stretched toward the glass, a sudden voice, curt and honeyed, sliced the air. "Can I help you with something, young man?" The saleswoman's tone wrapped politeness around skepticism. Her narrowed eyes betrayed what her smile pretended to conceal. Elijah flinched slightly, drawing his hand back. He replied softly, "I want to buy that for my mom." The woman looked at him, then at his shoes, creased and dusty, then at the folded bill in his hand. She forced a tight smile. "Sweetheart, that piece is a little out of reach, don't you think?" Her hand gestured toward the clearance shelf where dusty keychains lay forgotten. "Perhaps something more suitable?" The words settled heavy in the air. Elijah stood still, face frozen not from fear, but from a silent, growing ache. The moment hung there, sharp and unyielding, as if time itself refused to breathe. A small murmur echoed nearby, a couple exchanging glances, one stifling a chuckle. Elijah looked down, swallowing the heat rising behind his eyes. "It's for her birthday," he whispered, not to her, but to the glass. "She works really hard." The saleswoman barely heard him. She'd already turned her back, brushing imaginary dust off a display. The door chimed again. Every head turned. A tall figure entered, coat folded neatly over his arm, dark curls, gently tousled, eyes both kind and piercing. Jonathan Roumie. Instantly recognizable, yet dressed with humility, as if unaware of the weight his presence carried. He looked around briefly, then locked eyes with Elijah. He didn't smile, didn't raise an eyebrow. He simply watched. His gaze shifted from the boy to the locket, then to the saleswoman who now stood upright, brushing down her skirt with practiced grace. "Is everything all right here?" Roumie's voice was gentle but edged with unmistakable steel. The room stilled. "Of course," she replied too quickly. "Just trying to help." Roumie stepped closer. "Looks like he found what he was looking for." He turned to Elijah, crouched slightly. "What's her name?" "Marla," Elijah said, almost a breath. "She likes roses. She always smells like roses when she tucks me in." Roumie stood upright, slid his card from his coat pocket, and handed it to the stunned cashier. "Ring it up for me," he said. "Wrap it beautifully. It's a royal gift." Then he looked back at Elijah and added quietly, "You'll give it to her, just like you planned." Elijah's mouth opened, but no sound came. He only nodded, clutching the locket box like it was a lifeline. The boutique remained frozen. The saleswoman stared, her composure cracking around the edges. The incident didn't fade into the quiet. A week later, someone uploaded the security footage. No names, just moments. The boy, the locket, the saleswoman's words. Roumie's calm defiance. The internet did the rest. Soon news anchors replayed the clip with solemn voices. Social media overflowed with reposts and commentary. But more than views, it sparked recognition. Not because it was rare, but because it wasn't. Thousands responded, Mothers recalling how their children were shadowed in stores, teenagers recounting their first taste of being devalued, adults remembering the subtle humiliations that wore away their sense of self over years. Marla didn't cry when she saw the footage. She just exhaled, long and low, as if letting go of something she had held in for decades. She had always taught Elijah that kindness mattered, that even in silence, dignity spoke. But now, the world saw the things she never wanted him to know too soon. Backlash grew. The boutique issued a statement, cold, rehearsed, deep regret for the misunderstanding. But former employees began speaking out. One anonymous voice on a podcast said, "They trained us to profile, not openly, but we knew who to monitor." Other stories came out. A woman mistaken for a janitor while shopping. A boy asked if he could afford that while looking at sneakers. A college professor followed through a bookstore. These weren't exceptions. They were patterns. The boutique doubled down. They filed a lawsuit, not against the boy, but against Jonathan Roumie. Defamation, they claimed, irreparable damage to our brand. The hearing was set. Media swarmed. People gathered outside the courthouse holding signs. "Let kids dream. Dignity is not for sale." Inside, Roumie sat calm, alone at a table. The boutique's lawyer started strong, sharp-tongued, articulate. "My client's livelihood has suffered." Mr. Roumie encouraged public outrage through the spread of private footage. Was that noble or calculated? He looked at Roumie. "You turned a private misunderstanding into public destruction." Roumie didn't flinch. He let the silence stretch, then finally spoke. "I didn't say a word in the video, but the truth did." He paused. "I didn't destroy anything. I revealed what was already broken." Then he played the full security footage. Elijah silent, eyes wide, folding his $20 bill again and again as the woman loomed above him. The courtroom didn't gasp. It didn't need to. The air went still. The saleswoman sat stiffly, face pale. Her lawyers didn't interrupt. They couldn't. "He saved for months," Roumie continued. "He didn't ask for charity. He asked for respect. And she denied it not because of money, but because she saw him and judged his worth before he even spoke." His voice never rose. "If that truth burns, it's because it's real." The judge ruled swiftly. Case dismissed. But what followed was deeper than legal. The boutique never recovered. The store closed within a month. Rumors said the owner fled the country. The saleswoman faded from public view, seen working, briefly in a suburban department store where no one greeted her by name. She avoided mirrors. She stopped wearing her signature lipstick. In private, she rewatched the courtroom clip. Not for Roumie's words, but for her own face. How it looked. When power collapsed, Elijah returned to his routines, but the world treated him differently. At school, students whispered his name. Some teachers pulled him aside with awkward encouragement. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that Marla wore the locket every day. On hard days, she touched it before leaving for work. At night, when Elijah was asleep, she would run her finger over the etched rose, then kiss his forehead. "Thank you," she once whispered. He never woke. Roumie declined interview offers. But months later, at a quiet fundraiser for urban youth mentorship, he was asked what had stayed with him. He answered softly, his hands, how tight he held that locket box, as if he thought the world might take it back. That image stayed with many. People began to donate anonymously to schools in Elijah's district. A scholarship fund opened in Marla's name. For those who believe love is still enough. The last time Elijah spoke publicly, it wasn't a speech. It was a letter, written by hand, shared during a youth storytelling conference. He wrote, I thought I had to be quiet to be safe, but maybe I just needed someone louder than the silence. The room didn't cheer. They listened, and in homes across the country, mothers touched old jewelry. Fathers remembered their sons first. Shame. Strangers looked longer at children who once blended into the background. The world hadn't changed overnight, but it had been reminded. The final image wasn't a protest. It wasn't court. It was a boy and his mom walking hand in hand, past shuttered storefronts, her locket catching the sun. Not just a gift, a declaration, a beginning.